welcome to another episode of Galaxy Gardens. My name is Chrissy. Today we're going to be kegging our West Coast IPA, picking some chestnut mushrooms I've been growing inside, and I wanted to show you some stuff that's been going on with our yard, so come with me, let's check it out. Before Greg kegs our beer, let me show you how our seedlings have been doing, our onions, brassicas, and leeks. Because they're doing better than a few days ago, so check it out. We are on week 2 since we germinated our onions, leeks, and experimental brassicas. It was a little bit too much water in here, so I dumped some out. It'll evaporate. So you can see all the green from all the onions coming up. So by the end of the week, they should all be up. Our broccolis have already come up, and our cauliflowers are just starting to come out. The only thing that hasn't come up is one of the onions, so we'll see. And I think, I zoom in here, the top right cell might be one. So I'm gonna leave it alone. I was thinking of starting the rest of the onion seeds. Let's see if I have time to do that this week. So that's our germination update. And we'll be doing peppers and eggplants at the end of February, and tomatoes and pretty much everything else at the end of March. You can see here our lettuce is still going. All of this in the middle, that's spinach that I killed and kale I did not take care of. But up here we have some marjoram, which is starting to flower, so I'm gonna harvest some. We have some basil in the back there. This lavender just hates it in here. There's some more up top. So, I'm excited for this marjoram. I'm gonna clip some and take it with me, go dry it in my kitchen. Got my marjoram to go, and I was saying some basil too. Quite a bit of basil, so I'm gonna wash these off. Looks like a bit more now that I put it down the counter. Yeah, gonna get this all washed. Maybe I'll make a tiny bit of pesto, I don't know. I haven't decided. Oh, it's cute. Okay, now's the time to keg the beer.
Alright, so it's about time to keg this West Coast IPA. It's been ready for over a week, just haven't had time to get to it. So we've just had it cold crashing at 5 degrees Celsius, or it's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's at the right temperature. So first thing we gotta do is dump the trube. That's all the hop and yeast that's just gonna be at the bottom here. So I'm gonna deal with that now. Hopefully it's not too stubborn and it'll just come right out, but we'll see. That should be about it. In case you want to know what it looks like, it's green and disgusting, but it smells great. It smells like citrus, Citra mosaic hops in there, so yeah. Alright, now the next step is this keg is full of sanitizer. We want to fill it with CO2, so I'm going to basically use CO2 to push it into this. We'll do that in just a sec. Alright, so this keg is full of sanitizer, Star San, and the point of what we're doing right now is we're going to use CO2 to push the Star San out. And the reason why we're doing this is essentially because this way we can ensure that there won't be any oxygen in the keg when we do our direct transfer from the fermenter. So basically, we don't want any contact between the beer and oxygen, and this is the best way to ensure that. So now we just have to wait for this to fill up, and then we can fill it up with beer. right, so we're all set for the closed transfer now. I added a gas, God, I don't even know what to call this thing, a gas hookup to the top of the fermenter. So that way we can use CO2 to kind of push this down. So I'm going to now hook this up to the liquid in, get this started.
What PSI?
I got this set to about 6 PSI. You don't want it too high of a pressure. This thing isn't even like fully, completely like sealed. I guess like air can still get through, so if you put too much, you're just going to waste a lot of gas. And now we wait. There we go. Alright, so it's going to take a couple more minutes for all the beer to come from the fermenter down into the keg. But once it's ready, we're just going to get it set up in the keezer. There's room for it right now. There's just one empty space in there. And then I'm just going to set the PSI in the keezer to about 30. That's way higher than the serving pressure, but that way we'll get it to the serving pressure within a day or two, as opposed to waiting at least a week if you keep it at the serving pressure. Alright, so this is pretty much all set now. I've got it hooked up to the gas here, which is set to about 35 PSI. It's a really high pressure, but that way we know it will be ready to drink in a day or two. Got it hooked up to the line here, and so we just have to wait a couple days and then we'll get to drink it. So we're all set now. Thanks for watching the whole process, and wish I could share a beer with you.
So we finally have the beer kegged. We'll get to drink it in another day or so. But come and check out what's been going on in our property the last few days. Goodness. Basically, what you're looking at here is what happens when the ground is frozen. There's been ice on the ground for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and then we get some warm days. So basically what happened is when the rain came through, everything melted except for a thin layer of ice, which was over the frozen ground, so it didn't have anywhere to drain off to. So we ended up with some flooding, even in our raised beds, which fortunately we have raised beds because we've had an in-ground garden. Be a little more concerning, but I was a little worried about our blueberries, which got into the flood zone. Fortunately, by like the end of that day, ended up receding just a little bit, but now it's frozen again and it's snowing. So we're gonna keep an eye on it. Fortunately, it didn't make it all the way up the yard into our run, so the chickens were fine, but it was nowhere near as bad as that was last year. Last year, I think at the worst, it was maybe like a third as flooded and just in like a little dip. That's before where the hops are. So we're gonna keep an eye on it and might need to do a lot more mulching this year, we'll see. If you've been following our mushroom updates on Instagram, I was waiting for them to come in before I showed YouTube this, but check this out. So we have some chestnut mushrooms growing on hardwood pellet substrate. Added just a little bit of gypsum to there. And we started these a month ago, so it's been a month and a few days, and our chestnuts have fruited. So these ones we're still waiting to get a bit bigger. We also have these. This is my second mushroom grow ever. But today we'll be harvesting a couple clusters from here. So yesterday the caps were still attached to the stem. Let's see if I can get under here. Now you can see they've separated from the stem and they're still young. So they're gonna have quite a lot of flavor. So let me go set this up and we'll cut it off. Look at that, what a beautiful angle. Great, so I'm gonna go in and if I understand, I just have to go on the back and clip it. You can see this one's missing just a little bit of the cap. Actually knocked that off by accident when I was opening this. So I'm gonna go behind here, find where it connects. And you can twist these off or cut them off. This is just gonna be cutting them and seeing what happens. Oh, okay, so it looks like it took a little bit of the substrate on that side. Okay. There you go, that's the back. And now, look at this beautiful cluster. Let's get that in focus. There you go, look at that. That looks awesome. Now, these apparently store pretty well since they're pretty young. So what I'm gonna do is put them in a container and put them in the fridge, and I'll make them for dinner. Now we're gonna go in for the second cluster here, and I just feel more comfortable leaving them inside the bag while I do this. Understandably, there is the underdeveloped ones under here. So potentially we could go under here and back. Let me see what happens. I'm gonna go through this side because that's where the light is. Let's see. Do my best here. Oh, they're on there. Hey, there we go. Let's put the knife down. Look at that. So let's clean them off. Looks awesome. And we were able to preserve the ones on the bottom here, so those can keep growing. But, I mean, come on. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Now that I have both of these harvested, because I am going to eat them tonight, I'm just gonna put them in this bowl lined with paper towel and put them in the fridge. I'm not super concerned about them drying out, just because I'll be cooking it in a few hours anyways. They really won't dry out that much. If you wanted to keep this in your fridge longer term, I would recommend putting it in an airtight container, just so they don't dry out. Or if your goal is to dry them out, you could separate all of the fruiting bodies from each other and dry them out individually, and they'll probably be dry in a couple days. So I think this looks great. I'm really happy with this as our initial harvest. Obviously we're gonna get more, and the rest will probably dry, but I have been wanting to try chestnuts for a few years, and we finally grew it, so now we can. If you've never had mushrooms before, you don't know if you're allergic, this is a culinary mushroom, so the likelihood is low. But like with any new food, you want to try just a little bit at a time and wait to see how you react before you have any more. I'm so stoked for these. As for the rest of the mushrooms that we're not harvesting yet, basically gonna spray water. It's gonna keep them hydrated as they're going. We are literally, these are just safe shopping bags on our kitchen counter. It's not fancy, but I like doing this in the winter where I can focus on it more. So we have these 3, and if you're here from Instagram, yes, we still have the oysters. The oysters are doing so bad. They're doing so bad. I just moved them to this counter though, because the chestnuts did so well, and I put them in different bags. They're a bit larger. We only had 2 other larger bags, so one of them's still in the small bag. And I just opened them up for some fresh air exchange. I've been finding in our house, because it's so dry, that if I open it up for like 30 minutes once a day, spray them when I open them, then spray it all the bag again when you seal it, they seem to be doing the best, versus me opening it like 3 times a day to spray. So that's what's going on with these. We'll get back to it, and I expect to harvest the rest of these chestnuts by the end of the week, at least for the cluster over here, and the cluster over here we definitely will in the next few days, and then the smaller ones will come in. I mean, it's been doubling in size like every day, every other day, so they look awesome. I'm very excited. Thanks for joining us today. I hope any of this was helpful for you if you're trying to brew and keg your own beer, maybe see some outcome of growing mushrooms on your counter. I'll tell you though, if anyone has any recommendations for dealing with flooding in our yard so we don't have this happen again next year, really appreciate it if you could put it down in the comments. If you want to find us on social media, I'm going to put the link tree down in our description. You can find us everywhere. Please join our Facebook discussion group. I'd really like to start seeing everyone's gardens. There's like nobody in there right now. So come hang out, or I'm just going to keep posting there. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Some stuff coming up is we're probably going to brew some more beer. We're definitely going to do a taste test of our West Coast IPA. It'll probably be ready in another day or so. It'll be fully carbonated. We've tried it before it was carbonated. It tastes super good, so I think it's going to taste even better once it finishes getting enough CO2 in there. It's also finally time for me to prune my fruit trees outside, so I'll probably be giving you guys a tutorial on that next week. We'll see what our weather looks like, if it's kind and we don't get a lot of snow or rain this week. So we'll see you next Tuesday, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.